The lecture is on data warehousing. It have two parts. Hold on 1 second. Just wait. Test case scenario, login 5, test case ID, test priority high. Prerequisites. Okay, valid username. Test step 1, launch application. Very nice. Very nice, Jaspir.
Thank you. I have another one also, like on the transfer funds.
Okay.
If you can take a look later on. Thank you.
Namrata, I need your assignments before Monday, please.
Yes, I have blocked my calendar for it today. I'm going to work on it.
Perfect. कोई मसला हो, कोई question हो, ask me.
Sure. Thanks.
Today's lecture is on data warehousing. And before that, we need to understand what is a database or what is data, first of all. So I would like to ask you guys, what is data?
Any unprocessed information is a data.
Okay. And what is a database?
It is a collection of data
Okay.
into
And
rows and
generally, can you tell me what are different types of databases which exist in different environments, different organizations?
did you mean to say the product tool names like SQL database or Oracle
Yes,
database
Oracle,
or any
SQL, data is stored in Excel, data is stored in Microsoft Access, data is stored in
access?
cloud server, data is stored in big data structures, different Hadoop and all that. So there are multiple places where data of any organization is stored, but mainly, generally, you will see SQL Server, Oracle Server, or the cloud services, Amazon Web Services. Most companies are moving toward it, but still, most of the data is still going to be in Oracle and SQL Server. These databases are called RDBMS. Relational database management system, and in RDBMS system, data is stored in form of tables and columns, rows. Table could be an entity for which information need to be captured. Entity mean anything for which information can be captured. A customer is an entity. An account is an entity. For example, table is customer, and under customer there are going to be columns where you can capture customer ID information, customer name information, date of birth, social security number, tax ID number, place of birth, country, all those information. And then rows are going to be having all the records, because there are going to be multiple customer and every customer is going to have its own dedicated row. So this is how your databases are going to look like. So data is nothing but information, and that information need to be stored. So there are two systems where information is stored. One system is called OLTP and one system is called OLAP. Online transaction processing system. What is an online transaction processing system? These are the first system applications which capture your day-to-day data, day-to-day transactions. For example, you have Chase Bank account and you have their debit card or credit card. When you go and swipe your credit card at an ATM machine is nothing but an OLTP system, online transaction processing system. You walk into Walmart or ShopRite and you swap your card on a point of sale system. That is an also OLTP system. So online transaction processing systems, they capture day-to-day information. but we cannot store information in OLTP for longer time period. One thing could be the memory or space. Another thing could be security reasons. Another thing could be that you cannot do reporting using the OLTP system. So what they do is they need to move these datas from OLTP system. Every company have multiple OLTP systems: CRM solution, customer relationship management, Salesforce solution, point of sale system, ATM machine, bank teller system, trading application, Chase Bank, mobile online application. All these applications are doing nothing but capturing your information on daily basis. These all systems are called OLTP systems. Now, if I want to do my reporting as a bank, Chase Bank, I cannot go simply in every single system and take this information separately, and then be able to create report on overall company-wide performance. Any type of report I want to create, any type of analysis I want to do, I can do. It's not easy. Data is scattered across multiple places. So what they do is they need to keep moving this data from these OLTP system into an OLAP system, which is an online analytical processing system, or another word called your database or data warehouse. Now there's a definite difference between a database and a data warehouse. Can somebody tell me what is a database and what is a data warehouse?
Data warehouse is a collection of various databases. And database, as you mentioned, information is stored in database either in terms of RDMS or using big data documents.
So for example, every department is going to have their own database. Let's suppose that there's one company, it have 4 different business units and they have their own databases: DB1, DB2, DB3, DB4. Now it's fine, everyone can use their own database, they can do reporting and all that, but what if I have to do the company-wide reporting, this whole company XYZ? If I want to do company-wide reporting, I won't be requesting information from all these teams separately and doing all these processes. It's going to be very hectic, very time consuming effort. So what they do is, apart from these databases, they will bring all these databases into a data warehouse, where the whole company level data is made available, and that data warehouse can be used for reporting and analysis purposes. So reporting and analysis is basically done through the OLAP systems, OLTP systems. You cannot use to do reporting and analysis. Okay. Now question is, how do they move this data? What is the process of moving this data from OLTP system into databases or databases into data warehouses? What is that process called? That is the first part today, and it's very important to understand this. Even though you are not going to be working on doing all these extractions and transformations, but you're going to be there to guide the development team and business team how the process will move, and then provide all the documentation which are needed. Now let me start with that process. The process through which your data get extracted from different online transaction processing system or from different databases into data warehouse is called ETL. E mean extract, T mean transform, and L mean load. So ETL, extraction, transformation, and then finally loading that data. This is what the process would be. So for example, there are different data sources from where you need to extract data, or you have different OLTP systems in your organization. For example, you have multiple operational systems, trading platforms, they are sending daily data. You have different CRM solutions where customer on daily basis are logging in using those systems, so their information is also being stored in the CRM. You have different data coming from flat files. You have data coming into XML files. Spreadsheets. This is all, these are the sources where your data is kept. Okay. As a BAs, when you're working in a project where you need to perform data migration or a data warehousing project or ETL project, you would know when they will hire you. The requirement would be that we're looking for a technical BA who is, have worked on migration project, who have good understanding of different databases and work closely with the ETL teams. So that means this project is not about building an application. This project is about moving data. Now, again, this is not the case all the time that you will be doing moving data from different sources, different OLTP systems. It could be you have an existing old database and your company want to move into a new environment. So from that old database, you want to extract whatever data of your need is. You have to move it and bring it into the final target system where you want to store it. Or you have 3-4 different databases from where you need to extract data and finally move it into one source. Or you have one OLTP system, online transaction processing system, let's suppose a ATM machine, and you want to extract data from all your ATM machines and you want to bring it into database. So whenever data need to be migrated, regardless it is being migrated from an OLTP system or it is migrated from a database or it is migrated from an old data warehouse, whenever it is migrated, you need to work with ETL teams. The process would be about ETL. So let's suppose what happen is, when this data sources are identified, let's suppose they hire you and they say, okay, we have 5 data sources and we want you to help us move the information from these sources into a new storage place. It is our data warehouse. We want to create a new data warehouse where we want to move all this information. So this is your source from where data need to be extracted, and this is your target where eventually data is going to be sitting, submitted, stored. Between this, what happens and how you're going to do it as a BA, you need to understand it. ETL means simply mean you are going to extract data from these sources. You are going to transform this data. And why you need to do transformation? Very simple concept. Transformation is done on your data attributes, on your information. For example, operational system is storing your currency or transaction data in dollars. A CRM system at the same time is storing data in pounds. Flat files are sending you data and that data is in euros. This also stored in dollar amount. So that means when data is different, same way an operational system's date of birth or structure is month, year and date. A CRM system stores first year, then month, then date. This store first date, then month, then year. Could be different things. These databases were designed in different times. These databases are having different data structures. So that means you cannot simply extract data and simply load it. You need to have transformation done. And there would be a transformation requirement given to your ETL team. Your business will let you know for each data attribute what kind of transformations they are looking for. But first process would be, in any project, regardless its application development, its application enhancement, it is in re-engineering project or it is ETL project, you need to gather requirement. Correct? So here your requirement would be gathering data requirement. And I'm gonna make that form which you need to finally design right here, step by step, so you understand eventually what document you're going to produce. First column is going to be your data attribute. What data you need? Attribute mean information or data requirement. Right now, I don't know anything else. My first point of contacts are going to be the product owners and business users with whom I'll sit and I'll ask them questions. So tell me, first of all, what are the sources where you want to extract data? So they will highlight either it's one source or either it's multiple sources from where they want to extract data. Second thing, you need to question them, which already will be made available to you, that these sources are, one source is in Excel, one source is basically in SQL Server, one of the data source is Oracle Server, one of the data source is flat file data, one of the data source is XML file data. So identification of those source types. And the most important thing for you is, let's suppose they say, okay, we want to have data from our operational system. So you will first question, you will ask them, can you tell me, can you give me your data requirement? What data you want to move from your operational system? So they'll say, we want to move, extract or move client ID. We need this information. We need client name. We need client address. We need client date of birth. Also, we have transaction data into it. So we need all the transaction IDs. We need transaction date to be moved. We need transaction amount to be moved. We want transaction currency in which transaction is being sent. All those informations, these are the informations which we need. Now the source might have 300 different informations, but that does not mean every information is useful for my business. For the reporting and analysis purpose, it doesn't mean all the informations are useful. Any information which is useful, they are only going to ask you, we want to move that, because these systems are not going to go anywhere. These systems are still going to stay there because they'll be capturing day-to-day information again. But you need to identify what data from these system is needed to be extracted. That is going to be called your data requirement or data attributes. So first thing they will define you is data attribute. Second thing you will know is, let's suppose you are 5 BAs or 3 BAs. One of the BA will be assigned this system, one of the BA will be assigned this system, and one of the BA will be assigned this system. When I say assign means they will give you access to these environments. So you can yourself go into these databases, these systems, OLTP systems or databases, open these databases and see yourself what information they store, and do they store this information or not? Because my business can tell me anything. Oh, we want this, we want that. And why are they doing it? Because simple example is, let's suppose you go and you open account in Bank of America. Either they give you a form to fill, or either there's a representative who's sitting in front of you and he have a form, online application form or account opening form, and he's asking you questions. So what is your first name? Give me your ID card. What is your date of birth? What is your address? What is your social security? What is your employment status? How much salary you make? What is your income level? And all those things. These questions are being asked. Not all the questions are mandatory in that form. Some questions, some informations are always going to be optional. For example, second address, previous address, I don't need to provide it. Okay, fine. But because my business have seen that form, they think that all this data is made available to us when customer opens account. But no, any data which is mandatory, that is definitely going to be available, but any data which is optional, it might not be available. So in that case, we have to go back and tell them that, okay, you wanted to see social security number, but that is not a mandatory field. We do not store it. If we pull out the data of social security for all our customer, we have 3 million customers. Out of 3 million customer, only 1 million have social security, 2 million did not provide social security. So do you still want to extract it? So they will have to decide it. So this is called your analysis. So second thing you need to identify is the source which is assigned to you, from where all this information need to be captured, which information need to be extracted. So let's suppose source is a CRM system we had. So CRM system is the source of all these data attributes, and I am assigned a CRM system. or any XYZ system. The name could be different. Barclays database, one of the database I was working name was Hornet database. One of the database I was working name was BSA database. So there are multiple databases, and every database have its own name. Once they give you access, you'll be able to open and you'll be able to view these data. So this is the two informations which will be made available to me, and the last information they will made available to me is the transformation need. They will say that we want client ID as a variable character, and client ID field are going to be at least 100, mostly 100 characters, and that field should be not null. Not null mean mandatory. Client name, we also want it in variable character. Client name can be 60 character long, and it is also not null. That means mandatory information. We want address in variable character. It have 150 attributes. It could be null. I'm just giving example. Null mean that this is an optional field because it is on customer who's opening account. It is on him if he want to provide it or not. So anytime you see a null field mean an optional field. Date of birth, we want date of birth in this format: date, month, year. Currency, we want currencies in dollar amounts. If it is in pound or euro, we want it to convert into dollars. So conversions are also given to you. So these three informations are already made available to you. One thing you need to do is you need to get access to this system and start using it. Start locating this, every single data attribute you need to locate it. So for example, anyway, I'm going to cover the SQL part tomorrow, but I'm just going to give you example. This is how your SQL would look like. On left control panel, you will have databases, different databases which are in the SQL XYZ, ABC, EFD. These are different databases, and my database is EFD. This would be a plus sign. When I click on it, all the tables name will open up. Customer table, so customer.dbo, again plus sign. Transaction table .dbo plus sign. Account table .dbo plus sign. All the tables which are in this database, they will have on your left panel. Now when you click on this plus sign, let's suppose the columns will open up. So account table will have account ID, and the format is also given here that this data store account ID in varchar 60 character not null. Account open date, month, year and date is the structure of it. Account status, active or inactive. So columns will open up, but I'm still not able to see the actual information, actual customer information. I know this is the columns available. So what I need to do, all the commands are going to be here. Run command, stop, all those SQL commands are going to be here, and this is the place where I can put down my query. So let's suppose I want to open account table and actually want to see how many customers are there, and if this information which I'm seeing, account ID, account open date, all these are made available for every single customer or not. So simply I will use one query called select. So select statement need to be used to open any table. So you will say select star from, simply copy this table or put same name account.dbo. Soon you hit run, it will open up the whole account table with all its columns, with all the customers, with all the rows, every customer information, account ID, account name, open date, status, and then all the information would be here. Account ID 01, customer name is this, account open date was this. So for every customer, and in the bottom it will say there are 2.1 million customer or 2.3 million customer, number of records are also given. So when access is given to you, you need to use these statements. Now I want to see a specific customer. Let's suppose there's a customer called Anil. So I'll simply say or specific account, because this is account table. So specific account and account number is 124698. So simply I'll do where the account ID is equal to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Everything will go blank. Only one row will come out with the same account information. So these are different statements you need to use. Select, where, you can group by, you can order by, you can use Hamming function, you can use count function, you can use join function, all those. And whenever you are working in an RDBMS database, which is relational database management system, mostly SQL, Oracle, all these are called relational databases. Why they are called relational databases? The reason is every single table in these databases pretty much is linked with each other. That means you should be able to pull up 2 or 3 or 4 tables all together as well using a function called join. Join table A with join table B, where this is where the primary key of table A is equal to primary key of table B. So SQL statements, there are around 8 SQL statements which as a BA you need to know. Very basic statements, guys. You can learn it in 30 minutes guarantee. So when you know SQL, basic SQL, these 8 to 7 statements, you should be able to open any database, SQL or Oracle database, and you should be able to view this data and you should be able to analyze this data. And analyzing mean finding out, let's suppose if the account status, for how many accounts the status is shown as closed or inactive. So I can go back to my business and tell them that account status for most of the account is inactive. So why you want to bring it into your application, or why you want to move these accounts into new databases? So you guys go back and forth, do this analysis, and eventually this document which I'm creating, that is going to be created, and that document is called data mapping document. In every project, application design project, enhancement project, or data warehousing project, this is going to be created. That is needed. This is going to create your backend. I always tell you there are two, front end and back end. Front end is nothing but your application design. All the screens on your application are the front end. For those front end, we've already covered. You write down user stories, you create mock-up screen designs, workflows, process flows, anything which I've covered. You gather information from user, how user will be interacting, you'll be writing acceptance criteria and all that. So front end is design. But what about back end? How would your front end work if you're not giving it a back end? That means the information, the data that is needed to be integrated with this front end. Without back end, front end is nothing. The reason we are designing this application is information. The reason we are doing this data migration project is information, data. So when you need to integrate your data with your application's front end so that it can start working properly, you need to create a map. That map will tell your application where to fetch data, at what point what data need to be fetched, and how it is going to show this data on the front end of the application. So this is going to be the most important thing you're going to do when you're going to work on the technical side. You are going to create data mapping document, and you are going to perform data analysis using these queries which I just mentioned. So now there are two columns which are missing that I need to identify. Number one, table name of each data attribute, where this client ID is coming from. So I saw the client ID is available in client table, client.dbo. Where the date of birth is coming from, let's suppose, that is also coming from client.dbo. Where the transaction ID is coming from, I will open transaction table and I'll see transaction table there. So I'm putting as transaction.dbo. If it is coming from account table, then account.dbo. So all the tables names for each identified field, they need to be written here. Is it clear till now?
Imran, yes. So this table names is written by whom? The BA, or they'll be given to you?
No. You, once the access is given to you, I open this database EFD. The tables are here. Okay, I don't know in which table what information is. Let's suppose I want to see the transaction date. So just looking at the table name, what do you think where transaction date would be? Is it going to be in account table? Is it going to be in customer table, or is it going to be in transaction table?
It will be in transaction table.
Yes, so that is basically you have to see yourself, and if you're still not sure, open every table. You simply have to click the table name here and it will open up all the columns. You don't even need to put any query. Simply clicking this plus sign will give you all the information that is available in this table. So first you can open account table, click on this plus sign. It will show you all the columns. If there is transaction ID in account table, that means this is your column, this is your table. If it is not there, go further, click on next table plus point, plus sign. See there, and then you
My
run
question,
these queries. Got it?
yes, Imran, but my question is like a transaction table may have again a customer name and have several fields. Like each table will have several fields.
They are
Some
not going to be
are again,
replicated. They are not going to be replicated. If you're saying that transaction table, account table, and customer table are going to have the name of customer available, no. That is why we are calling it RDBMS, Relationship Database Management System. These three tables are automatically linked with each other. If somebody want to pull the complete information about one client, where his information, personal information is available, where his account information is available, where his transaction information is available, he have to use function join and pull data from three tables. So in transaction table, if there is a customer name, then it is not going to be in any other table. The customer name will not be in any other table. You getting my point here?
yes, I got it now, sir.
No duplicates. That is the reason we have dedicated separate table. Every table store different information. You will not see replication that customer table also have customer name and account table also have a customer name. No, account table will have account ID, account open date, account close date, account status, anything else related to only account. Okay, so second thing we identify is the table, and we can automatically see when we are looking at these columns, the data format is mentioned, varchar, nvarchar, if it is integer, if social security number have to be in integer, integer mean number, and there are going to be 9 character. So the data format or data type, okay, so client ID is varchar, sorry, client ID is variable character with 60 characters long, and it is not null field. Date of birth is date, month, year. Currency should be in pound or dollars. Transaction date should be in date, month, year. All these attributes are also mentioned. These data types are also mentioned against each column. How it is being stored, that is also mentioned here. You don't need to use SQL query, SQL statement to know the data type. Simply click on the plus sign of each table, and once columns open up, against every column, what is the data type that is already mentioned, simply copy it and paste it in front of that data attribute. So when you fill up all this information, this is what called data mapping document, and you can simply pass on this data mapping document to your ETL team or your development team. Now their job you have made easy. You've already done analysis, you've already discussed every data attribute with the business users, you've done various data workshops to identify issues, resolve those issues, and once you finalize this data mapping document, you have made the development team life easy. They simply need to plug in their system with these table, fetch the data in these formats, and eventually do conversion or transformation as per business need. They will do conversion, they will do transformation. I don't do anything on that. Only thing I can do is Once they are done doing these conversions, I can do data validation or data testing by making sure that every data attribute which we requested have been brought in properly as per the business need. So you can do data validation, data testing. So this is the most important document on backend called the data mapping document. In an application project, it is going to be called data mapping. In an ETL project, if you don't need ETL, you don't need this. For example, in my Barclays application, we brought this information as is, the same format, same structure. We didn't want to change it. We wanted to simply integrate our application with database. No ETL is needed. So we did not have this need. We did not go for ETL. I simply created these 4 columns: data attributes, source system, Fortnet database, table names for each data attribute, and data type, and then pass it on to the development team, and they basically processed everything. And I'll be given access to dev environment for the analysis purpose. You already know that. I'm not going to work on production or UAT. The data which I'm going to work on is going to be the dev data. The data where the code is going to be configured and built, it is going to be dev data. So this is your data mapping. And if it is the transformation which is needed, then this will become ETL data mapping document, where you will add 5th column, transformation business need will be given to you. Simply post it here and you'll be done with it. Now, moving back to your ETL process, now what happens? So for example, in first process, which is extraction of data, my responsibilities are 2. Gather data requirement, analysis on that data, 3, using SQL server or Oracle server statements, and eventually be able to create data mapping or ATL data mapping document. These are my deliverables when they are going to start this project. Before starting, before extraction, these 3 things must be done by BAs. And whenever you have a migration project, multiple BAs need to work, not one BA. Usually if it's migration, there's a lot of data which need to be migrated, a lot of clients, so they have 2-3 BAs who can divide their work. Someone can do analysis, one can do data mapping, one can gather requirement, one can do communications and all those things. So this is done like that. Now when I pass on this mapping document, they need to extract this data and bring it into data warehouse into these formats, in these exact formats. But they cannot directly bring it. They need to transform this data because data is in these formats, but we want these formats, so they need to transform this data. They need to change this data. So what they do is they will extract this data based on my mapping. Whatever mapping I have provided them, they will follow that and they will extract this data and they will bring it in an staging area. It is an environment where data will be kept for some time for different reasons, for different purposes. And what are those reasons, guys? They want to do first data validation, that this is the right data which we wanted to bring. They will do data cleaning, then they will do transformation on this data, whatever formats need to be updated, and then data modeling. The data need to be modeled again. Why data need to be modeled again? Data modeling will be covered tomorrow. Data modeling is needed because once they bring this data is raw now. It is no more in tables and columns. Only attributes are sitting here which they're cleaning. So when you are going to store this data into final data warehouse, which is your new target source, which is your new placeholder for putting all this data, again you have to have tables and columns identified. How many tables are going to be in this data warehouse or database, and within each column, within each table, what information we need to store. That is done using data modeling, and they will have a data modeler who's going to design data model, and as a BA you can gather requirement for him, and you can tell him that okay, if you want to store this data into target environment, we want my customer want 30 tables: customer, transaction, account, KYC, address table, whatever tables, product table, order table, all these tables we want. And then further you need to tell him that within each table they want this information, and that you only capturing from business users or your architecture, passing on to him. You are helping him so he can design the model. But as a BA you can yourself also design data model in case if they ask you. 100% time they won't ask you, but if you know it, it's a good thing. I'll show you how to create data models. There are 3 different types of data model: conceptual model, physical model, and logical model. And you draw them using different, there's a type of diagram called entity relationship diagram, ER diagram. So tomorrow I'll show you how to design models as well, even though you don't need it, but it is good if you know it. It will help you in your interviews. It will boost your confidence as well in any project related to data migration. These all processes will happen in the staging environment. And I'm going to give you a very simple example, and I always give this example. Actually, I'm bored of giving the same example again and again, but because this one is quite easy to understand, so I always pass on this example. You guys have seen a stage drama or an Oprah show or a live performance. Okay. You have a stage where all those characters, actors are performing. Consider that front stage as your data warehouse, where they are presenting themselves nicely. Everyone is wearing their costume, they know their lines, they know what time they have to enter. So the whole presentation is done on that stage. Consider that stage, that front stage, as data warehouse. Now if you go and you open the curtain, you will go in this staging area, backstage area. And what is happening here? Everyone, some people are changing their clothes, some people are reading their scripts. There are multiple doors where everyone is coming from. Everyone have their own small room. So everyone is basically, there's hustle and bustle. Somebody's running there, somebody's running here. Where's my script? What is happening? Consider that area as the staging area. And eventually they need to present themselves on the front stage in front of the audience. And that is basically data warehouse, where the data is presented nicely in form of tables and columns. Walmart. You walk into Walmart. Let's suppose this is your Walmart store. This is the main entrance. On the left side, you have clothing section. I'm actually picturing my own Walmart, the one in Linden, New Jersey, if anyone have been there. On this side, you have water section. On this side, you have shoes. On this side, you have equipments. This side, you have entertainment like TV and all those gamings and all that. This is, let's suppose, your grocery section, vegetable and fruit section. And this is the, I don't know, anything, let's suppose. So Walmart is like a data warehouse. If you go in the fruit section, you will see apples. These apples are coming from different forms. Consider these forms as your OLTP system. ABC form, XYZ form. But you will never know when they are sitting together. They're kept so nicely, they're cleaned up, they're organized. You would not know where they're coming from. But when they're coming, they're sorting them out, they're cleaning them, they're shining them, they're putting covers on them, and then they are storing it here. And it is easy for customers to know where to go. They know where to go, what to find, what to get. Same way data warehouse is a placeholder where your data is particularly kept into smaller marts. So you will have marketing data mart, you will have customer data mart, you have product data mart, you will have transaction data mart. So anyone who want to go and find specific data, they need to simply go in those marts and pull out the information. That is the concept of data warehouse. Same way, Walmart have multiple vendors for shoes, for clothing, for water, for fruits, for grocery, for vegetable section. They have multiple vendors. Consider these vendors as OLTP systems. These vendors are sending their items to Walmart, but before putting these items in their store, before that they have to clean them up, they have to organize, they have to make sure everything is according to their business model. So they will do all those, and consider that whatever they are doing as the staging area where they are doing transformation. They're giving a new look to their apples, to their shoes, to everything. They're organizing it and then eventually putting it for customers, so customers can easily pick up what they need. So this is a concept of ETL. Same concept of ETL exists, that your company is having multiple data sources, multiple information system, multiple application on daily basis which users are using. Now these systems cannot store data for longer time period. An ATM machine can store data for maximum 6 months. Every day there are hundreds of transactions on one ATM, so there's a space memory issue, there's a security issue, so many other issues. So they need to get this data extracted. But one thing you need to understand is, one time when they keep the ETL job, that ETL job, once they design the ETL job, that okay, business rule is that the data which is coming from ATM machine, and specifically let's suppose date of birth, I know there's no date of birth in ATM machine, but example, the date of birth need to be changed into month, year, date format. Once they set up this ETL job one day, one time in this staging environment, automatically now the data of ATM machine will keep on processing through this staging environment, and it will keep on storing toward the data warehouse or your database on daily basis. So ETL need to be done first time on every system, and eventually these jobs are keep on going, data keep on converting, transforming, and keep on loading. Only time you need to redo ETL is, let's suppose your bank have changed some guidelines. Initially they were capturing 10 information when customer opens account, now they are capturing 13 information. So what about those three informations? You need to still bring these informations. So for those three new informations, they again need to run ETL process, ETL jobs. So this is basically one time process, but only it will be ran again when there is new data which need to be extracted, transformed, and loaded. So here is your staging environment where data validation, data cleansing, data transformation, data modeling is happening. This is raw data, and now this data need to be transformed into data warehouse, into tables and columns. So there would be a data model designed by a data modeler. Based on that data model, your developer will throw these data attributes to specific tables, and they will connect these tables, they will create a relationship with these tables. There are different types of relationships which exist between database tables: one to one, one to many, many to many. So that is your ETL process, and once data is stored in data warehouse, it have different data marts, data mart 1, data mart 2. Let's suppose data mart 1 have data, all the data of transactions. So all the transaction tables will be in DM1. Remember I told you when I was working in Barclays, we use system called Hornet, database name Hornet. It was a data warehouse, and Hornet had 4 subsystems or 4 data marts. One was GAOS, one was SDS, one was Pershing, and one was NFS. I don't know what are these. I'm not even concerned about it if I'm a BA, honestly. But because I'm a bit technical, so I needed to, and I did my analysis on this data warehouse because it was having so many issues. So I found out that GOS Data Mart is a global account opening system which stores the data of your accounts, transaction, customer. SDS stores reference data like country code, big code, Swift code, wire messages, wire codes, and all those things. Pershing also store reference data. NFS stores your KYC data. KYC data mean KYC means know your customer. So all the information pertaining to customer social securities, customers tax IDs, their ID card numbers, their domicile numbers, all that information goes in these tables. So all these systems have their own dedicated table, but when you open a database or a data warehouse, you won't be able to see this. You will only be able to see all the tables together in one row. All these tables will be together in one row. So a data warehouse will have multiple data marts. Each data mart is going to store specific information to make it easy for the business users if they want to identify something, or for developer if they want to identify specific data, they can go in these data marts. But again, this data warehouse will be also in SQL or Oracle. So same way I showed you, it will open up like this, and you have your tables and columns, and you can open these tables by putting queries, select statement, order by, group, having, count. All these functions can be used in here. So the process of ETL, this is the complete process. Now as a BA, as I mentioned, in the first process, what you are going to do is, when they're going to extract data, you will do three things. You will gather the data requirement, you'll analyze if it is available, not available, and then you'll be able to create data mapping document, which will be passed on to the ETL team. Once they move this data, extract this data, and bring it into the staging environment, you can simply help the data modeler in giving him the further requirements that, okay, in the data warehouse, my business want to see 35 tables, and these are the names of these tables. Within first table, which is customer table, they want to see 13 information, customer name, ID, and all those things. So you can give them data requirements when they're creating data models, and that again requirement is given to you by your. Once data goes into data warehouse, then what is your role? You can do data validation, you can do data testing, going into each table and seeing if the formats have been converted as per the conversion requirements or not. If you see date of birth, is that date of birth in the exact same format which my business requested, or which my ETL mapping document listed? So you can do data validation, data testing, you can raise defects if there are any issues, you can do communications. So these are few things as a BS you will be doing in a data migration project. But in every product development, application enhancement project, you will do this analysis and mapping, gathering the requirement of data. For example, I'll give you simple example of Barclays again. Financial intelligence global search tool is designed for the financial crime team so that they can do multiple investigations on their customer, either because that the information has been requested by a central intelligence authority or FBI or any regulatory authority, or they want to just simply assess their own customer base. They want to simply analyze their own customer base performance and all that. So they ask us that we want to see the customer information, transaction information, and account information. And we ask them further, okay, what information within customer you want to see? Because if I open customer table in Hornet database, it stores 72 informations. They say we only want to see 12 information from customer table. Okay, I need to map it. Go in customer table, map it. That customer ID is in customer table and it is in this format. Here we don't need ETL, here we don't need conversion, we are directly integrating this data warehouse to our application, so simply mapping needed to be done. Okay, what do you need in transaction? We want wire transaction, check payments, and check deposits. Okay, fine. So I open wire table. Within wire we have stored 89 information. Do you want to bring all this 89 information about one wire? They said, no, we want to see 13, 14 information, wire ID, wire amount, the currency in which wire is being sent, the account number through wire being sent, the respondent bank, the country where the wire is being sent, all those things. Okay, fine. Check payments, what you want to see. Check deposit, what you want to see. So they will highlight what is the data they need to run this application, to design this application. So that means you're also gathering data requirement here, and then you're doing analysis on it, and then you are doing finally the data mapping document. Now if they said that, Imran, the application should be supporting two sources, because the second phase was that this financial global search tool will be mapped, will be integrated with two tables, with two data warehouses. One was Hornet, and if you see in my documents, the other one was BSA. BSA is the New York branch database, which stores wire information and MT10 transaction information, MT transaction information. So now if they want to bring both at one time, they cannot simply map it. They definitely need to do ETL, because the only reason is maybe BSA is storing data differently, Hornet stores data differently. Maybe BSA stores currencies in pounds and Hornet store currencies in dollar. BSA store data, date of birth in month, year, and it stores in year, month. Anyway, when you are moving data from more than two sources, you have to run ETL process. You need to have extraction, you need to have transformation done, and then integrated with the application. So if it was two sources, then definitely we would have done ETL. But because it was only one source and they didn't want to change anything, so we simply created a mapping document and passed it on to our to our IT development team, and they basically, based on my mapping, configured the code, and then they integrated the code with the application. So that was the whole process. So data mapping is very important. You should not be saying, I've seen most of people getting scared in interviews, stating everything in their resume. Oh, I'm a very technical BA and a very functional BA and all that. But when they actually go and interview, and if they face a technical question, for example, they say, can you walk me through how do you work with ETL teams? And they say, no, I am not technical. I'm more of a functional BA, even though I have understanding how these things work, but I'm a functional BA. You cannot say that. Even if you haven't worked actually on mapping, your project was there, you had three BAs, one BA was working on front end, one BA was working on back end, one BA was working on documentation or whatever, you still cannot say I don't understand the mapping process. Reason is, every day you are having meetings all together. You're only discussing these points. You know your environments. You should know what tools your project team is using. You should know what databases your team was using, what kind of data was it, did you run ETL process or not, what ETL tool your team was using, how many developers are working with you. These questions you need to know, because you've stayed on this project for 1 year, 2 year, or 6 months. So saying no to these kind of questions is a big mistake. And some people usually they say, man, we don't want to put too much of a technical stuff in our resume, like data mapping and ETL and all that. We won't be able to answer it. I simply tell them, you put it, you don't put it. The requirement when comes to you, if it have functional BA or technical BA, doesn't matter. There would be question. They will ask you, what is your experience on the back end? What is your understanding of different type of databases? They have to ask you, because you are not working in individual capacity. You guys are going to work closely within teams. The tasks are going to be assigned, but still these tasks, they will be discussed within teams. So anyway, you will be hearing these keywords, hearing these terminologies from fellow BA that, oh, I'm working on data mapping today. We have a SQL server system. These are the issues we are facing. You cannot tell client I was not part of it. Definitely, if you're not part of it, but you're part of the team, you're part of those meetings, you cannot act as layman. Okay, so this is your first part. Tomorrow we will be, I'm not going to go further in details because then it will be complicated. Tomorrow, three things we are going to cover. We are going to cover SQL server, queries in it. We are going to cover data modeling, how to create a data model, and I'll give you assignment, that is your last assignment, data model. And third thing, we'll be discussing various concepts, definitions on data. What is different types of schemas, star schema, snowflake schema, what are different types of database systems, OLTPs and OLAPs, what is the normalized data, what is denormalized data, how do they do reporting and all that, how do they do analysis. So we'll be covering, and what are different data mapping tools, what are, no, not data mapping is done on Excel. What are different types of ETL tools your team is going to be using, and what are different reporting tools which your team is going to be using. Now, one last thing, when your data warehouse is created, that can be used for reporting and analysis purposes. They can do anything, and they can use multiple reporting tools like Tableau, Spotfire, Power BI. There are multiple reporting tools as well. So tomorrow's lecture will be covering these 1, 2, and 3 concepts. Any question you guys have from this ETL?
Imran, I have a question. Imran?
Yes, go ahead, Anil. Hello?
Imran, can I ask the question?
Yes, Anil.
Yeah. So when you are looking at data validation and testing, now you're saying that, let us say we have extracted from the example what you've given. It has moved to a target source, and then you're doing a data validation or testing. So my question is, just like how we did the test case scenario, do you go through each of those and test it, or do you do a random selection? And if so, what process you make to make the random selection?
Good question. Very good question. Okay. So the validation and testing will not be done once your data warehouse is ready. Of course, before your final production data warehouse environment, there is going to be a staging environment, as we discussed yesterday. That every production server is going to have a staging area where first, once data is loaded, here testing is performed. And now I'm not going to be able to do testing on every single data attribute, every single customer. There are going to be millions of records. So what you need to do is you need to select sample data, date of birth, IDs, few names, transaction amounts, currency types. They will highlight it. Your architecture or dev team, they will let you know that, Imran, if you can perform validation on following attributes, so you can simply pick up those from, and then you can run. So it's a sample which you need to select, and that is what you need to test. Otherwise you'll not be able to test every single thing, and testing cannot be done once it is already designed. So before moving it finally into the source system, they will keep it some time within a staging environment, a temporary environment, where all these testing can be performed, and then it will be brought into the data warehouse.
Okay. Now may I ask another question?
Yeah, go ahead, keep asking.
So now the concept is moving from the RDBMS into document related storage, right? Just like how Google is doing, or any other company is doing, using the document storage system, unlike big data. So from the that standpoint, does the ETL still apply there?
Yes, ETL is applied. It is called ELT in some cases. Extract, load, and then transform. But still, as I said, 90% of your source systems, data sources, are still in Oracle and SQL. Only 10% maybe data has been moved into AWS or any other cloud service or big data. And even in future, you will see companies moving toward it, but they will still be keeping these. They are not basically taking out Oracle or SQL environment. They are still keeping those as well, because both can be used for different purposes. Even if they're moving their data to AWS server, that does not mean that their previous data warehouse is obsolete. They are going to still keep it. Now, the process of ETL is going to be still same. You have to know what data need to be extracted and brought into the AWS server or Hadoop. I've heard this new terminology. One of my BAs working in Western Union, they are calling it ELT. Extract, load, and then transform. I don't know why, but I have to talk to him and understand the whole concept. But again, ETL is going to be there in every project, moving data from SQL Server, Oracle Server into Hadoop or AWS or any cloud services. ETL is going to be there, but some companies, there's new firm. If you Google it, you'll find it. So let's Google it. There is a vendor who have brought this process called ELT, but not maybe one or two customers are using it, not everyone. So let's see ELT. Yeah, so there's a ELT ETL pipeline tool. Let me simply ELT English now. ELT
Data
process, and you click on images and ELT. This is ELT. Okay, so it have extract, load. There's no transform. Why they are not showing transform here? Let me see. Extract, transform, and load. Hold on 1 second. Let's see ETL versus ELT. Let's see this one. So this is basic what we just discussed: extract, transform, and load. And this one is, you have raw source data that need to go into data warehouse, and then it need to be transformed within the data warehouse. But as I said, you won't see it happening in at least next 5 years. In pretty much every organization, ETL process is going to be there, and that is the right process. This is ETL, this is ELT. ELT gets the data, that one transform, this one simply replicate. Okay, this one sends into data warehouse, this one store it into data lake, and then further you can do reporting. Pretty much same process, still pretty much same process.
So does it apply to databases like NoSQL databases as well?
Yes. Give me 1 second. Sorry, azan ho rahi thi isliye. Okay. ETL ho ya ELT ho, doesn't matter. Both have same thing: extract, transform, and load. In both cases, as a BA, you need to know, you have to do data analysis, data requirement gathering, create data mapping document, perform validation and testing. Doesn't matter. Changing the word here and there. Process is still extract, transform, load, or extract, load, transform. But 100% cases when you work in your organization, it will be ETL. Okay.
But as you said, if it's ETL, then first the data mapping happens and then the transform happens. But if it's ELT, the data mapping happens before the during the loading process or
not
after
sure.
loading?
Anil, I'm not sure because I haven't seen the ELT happening anywhere. Only one guy talk about it. He works in Western Union. They are moving everything to cloud services. AWS, they had their database, Oracle and SQL, and they wanted to move it into the cloud services. So he was telling me, but he told me it's still same. It's just that they change the process. They bring load first and transform later. And in this one, they do transform first and load later. Apart from that, it's exactly same. But honestly speaking, I really don't know anything about why they are doing ELT and how the mapping would be. But I can ask him this question, that if it's ELT, then what is the change in mapping?
Okay, thank you, Imran. One more question, Imran. So this, you said the data mapping is done in an Excel sheet, right? So is there an assignment that we can do practice this thing what you mentioned?
So once we go through SQL Server tomorrow, there's a video also I'll be sending with you where one of my consultant, she's showing how to work on SQL and also telling you how to download SQL and what data to get in SQL. So first of all, you have to download Microsoft SQL Server from Google. It's free. And then there's a data library where you can pull data into that, and then you can perform analysis. From there, we can see if there's an assignment we can do, how we are going to do that. But tomorrow, once our lecture is done, then we'll do it. Give me 1 second. Yes. All right. Sorry for it.
Is it not true that online you may find some instances where you can rent them for a few dollars and then do this exercise?
Yeah, I know, but still, if you have something free, then why not? You can simply go in Google and simply search MS SQL download. And I'll give you 3-4 database names where you can pull data. So let's suppose this one, download SQL Server Management Studio. Simply download it, run it, install it. Once you're done installing it, then it will be having no data. And then there are 3-4 data sources available. Simply go there, download those data. They will be stored in your system, and from SQL you can pull. We'll show you tomorrow. Don't worry. I don't want you to get confused right now. Tomorrow's lecture is specific to that. So I'll show you, and then we can set up assignment as well.
Okay, man. Thank you.
You're welcome.